fewer and fewer of us are able, and it's not that we choose to, we are not reimbursed for those services when you practice functional or integrative medicine because the insurance-based system is for referrals to providers who do sick care
Yeah.
or prescriptions and surgeries. That's what the insurance system is. It's designed for medical and symptom management. So if you're
Mhm.
looking for, and the way I position this, Danny, is I tell people you're going to have to invest either
Yeah.
in illness or in your health.
Yeah, exactly.
So invest.
Exactly.
You're going to be investing. You're going to be investing some of your financial resources. Are you going to invest it in illness and disease management? Because if
Mm,
you don't take care of yourself and invest in wellness and prevention and
mm,
health, in your 40s, 50s, or 60s, disease is going to present itself. There's a high likelihood of that based on the world statistics of chronic
yeah,
disease.
yeah,
So I
yeah.
tell people you're going to invest, either invest in your health, meaning you're going to maybe have to invest in a provider who will do more comprehensive, holistic medicine, better hormone management, and they most likely are going to be out of insurance because we do not get reimbursed. If I were in my medical practice to take accept insurance, I would go under in probably less than 6 months because their reimbursements are so low.
Mm,
And I would have to still see
mm,
15 to 20 people a day, which gives me very little time to
mm,
actually spend time with my patients. So
yeah,
and understanding the structure of our healthcare system is just going to help everybody navigate that a little bit better.
yeah,
But to
yeah,
come back,
yeah.
policy aside and navigation of the health insurance system aside, I think what's really important to understand is what other things are really disrupting hormonal harmony for women. What I'm seeing, one of the main things that I've seen in my practice, and I've been in practice for over a decade, chronic stress. If your cortisol is high and you're not
Mm,
actually taking the Sabbath, you're not actually taking time to just be with your spirit, you're not pausing and really resting yourself. If you're in your 40s and 50s, most likely you're perimenopausal, your sleep might be disrupted. So telling a perimenopausal woman with nightly hot flashes, get better sleep is kind of ridiculous.
right.
There's still, I know. I mean, I've done it.
I
So
know,
how's your
I'm
sleep?
in it.
How's your
Yeah,
sleep?
yeah.
And my patient rolled her eyes. She's like, I'm 45 with hot flashes. And I'm like, you're right, you're right. It's not great. So, right, there's still ways to optimize sleep, but really what I'm talking is intentional periods of rest.
Mm,
Being with your spirit too is really important. And I'll show later on the 5 facets of how I approach in a holistic way someone's health.
I know.
So think about your hormones as an orchestra, ladies, meaning you have all these different instruments, and the conductor at the front is cortisol. Cortisol will impact and regulate all your other hormones, whether it's metabolic hormones, sex hormones, thyroid hormones, you name it. The cortisol at the front is like the conductor. So if you're not getting rest and you're on high cortisol and adrenaline, the conductor's like on steroids. So is that going to lead to the best harmony in this orchestra?
Mm,
No. It's the same thing for our hormones. And if you're completely exhausted and in burnout, guess what happens to cortisol? He or she is on the beach having a margarita. Okay. He or she is not at the front conducting this beautiful
they're checked out. They're
harmonious
done.
symphony. They're checked out. Peace out. Cortisol's on the
Peace
beach.
out.
Now your
Yeah,
cortisol is low and
yeah,
you're exhausted.
yeah, yeah.
And that will lead to a whole cascade of events that I teach to my patients, but I teach also a wellness curriculum that teaches men and women the impact of chronic stress truly on overall health, but on hormones.
Mm,
So that's a big reason, one of the main reasons that I see for women. And then the other reason that I see is synthetic hormones. So women who are put either on birth control early on, and some women medically really need to be have some management there. I do not deny that. That's absolutely, there's time and a place where synthetic hormones are needed to stabilize certain disease conditions. Outside of that, if you're being prescribed synthetic hormones, those are toxins for the body. They don't actually work synergistically with our natural receptors and our natural rhythm that
mm,
changes right in your 40s and 50s. So synthetic hormones is a huge reason for hormone destruction. And then you're told to just, well, just stop, right? The birth control, just take your Mirena out and you're fine without resetting the gut that's been disrupted because of that, without detoxing those synthetic hormones.
wow.
And then just environmental toxins. We as in humans have never had so much exposure to environmental toxins. And many of those, and I don't have the exact percentage, but many of those are endocrine disrupting chemicals.
Wow.
And we're talking about metabolism, a
Like
significant
cleaners and
subset.
things? Like
Cleaner
cleaners and things?
everywhere. Yeah, cleaner. I mean, all environmental toxins, insecticide, pesticides,
Wow.
plasticizers, BPAs. Cosmetics is one of the most toxic industry, and that by itself is a whole weekend
I
seminar
heard, I
of
just read about
toxins.
that.
Yep. So, ladies, look at where you're getting your beauty products and your cosmetics. It's for real. I
That's,
have cases, and we don't have enough time, but I literally had a case of this beautiful teenager came to me, heavy metal toxicity, neurological symptoms, hormonal imbalances, and that her mercury toxicity came because of her beauty products and a lipstick that she was using.
oh,
And
so,
I've seen it. I've seen this in my practice with testing that confirms it. And 6 months later, when we removed all the toxins, she was thriving,
Yeah.
and doing
Yeah.
really well, full recovery, So
I think that's one
that's,
of the main differences between like going to like, a regular doctor versus like an integrative practitioner. Regular doctors really are there to treat kind of like the symptoms, to numb the
yes,
symptoms. So you think that you're better,
yes,
but it actually doesn't hit on the root issue. Whereas you and your practice look at really the root issue.
correct.
What's causing the sickness in your body. And I think, in line with that is our program that we look at the heart issues, but also the physical, like disciplines of life, what we can do, physically to help with all of that. And then, of course, the spiritual side of looking, okay, God, like come in and heal my heart. I know that was a big part for me, is just asking the Lord to really heal my heart. Because as we have, areas of our heart that are broken, that are hurting, so many times that flows out into other, areas in our heart, whether, we're struggling with our mental, um,
Mm.
well-being, struggling with anxiety and depression and, even suicidal thoughts, all of those things can get in because we're thinking on these toxic negative thoughts. And then of course, in our body, we talked about the other day, people either are prone to either like overeat or undereat. Both of them are toxic to our health. And so being able to formulate a program, Danny and I worked really hard to formulate a program to help women to really understand how to fuel your body properly, so that you have the strength and the energy that you need to do all that God's called you to do. And then, for our friends that are watching online, these women that are really struggling with their health issues, just encourage them to just reach out to you, Melanie, and just, try to get to that root issue of what's going on. I know so many of us feel like so much of my life, I just felt like my metabolism was like broken, that somehow I was just handed like bad genes, and that, I was kind of like destined to be heavy. I mean, everyone in my family struggled with their weight. My mother, my father, my brother all passed prematurely, as the side effect of just, really not taking care of their bodies, this temple that the Lord had given to them. And I love them to death, but I wanted to change. I wanted to be different. And so I think so many women today just feel like their metabolism just doesn't work. And so can you just kind of speak into that a little bit and tell us what's missing,
Yeah.
with to our metabolism? How do we fix this?
Yes, it's a great question. And the correct way to approach this and think about it, Heather, is really to think about it holistically. So I love how you both, and in the 3F program, you're approaching this in a really comprehensive way. It's really important. It is not just one thing.
Yeah.
And first of all, let's understand what metabolism is. Metabolism is your body's ability to take in nutrients, food, vitamins, minerals, turn that into energy. That is metabolism. So your body's ability. So between taking food in and nutrients and vitamins and minerals, micronutrients and phytonutrients and all that, and turning that into energy, there's millions of steps. So we've already talked about hormones. What I see is when women struggle with metabolism, they often think of just, oh, it's my hormones are messed up. Hormones is one component. Absolutely. If you haven't had your thyroid checked properly, and by properly means actually checking thyroid hormones.
Mm.
Ladies, TSH is not a thyroid hormone. It was actually never ever meant to be the beginning and ending of thyroid testing. We
Mm,
have three thyroid hormones. You
Yeah.
have to get your three thyroid hormones checked. Also, if you're in your late 30s, 40s, and 50s, and you haven't had your sex hormones checked, we as in women are very, very dependent. Almost every single cell in our body has receptors for estrogen, for example. So when
Oh,
estrogen starts fluctuating, every system is going to change. And understand that perimenopause is a neuroimmune endocrine.
wow.
Your nervous system gets rewired hardcore. It's a little barbaric, but it's by God's design. So there's something that we do not understand that He knows is the best way to do it. But it's neurologically. And if you're a perimenopausal woman, you're probably like, is that how I have brain fog? Is that why I'm
Yeah,
super clumsy all the time now? Is that
neuro.
why, like, mhm, yes, because your estrogen, when it crashes, the brain gets a signal to rewire. It's a
Mm.
beautiful thing that we do not understand scientifically and medically because women have not been scientifically studied until the mid 90s. Women were not allowed in the US in scientific studies until the mid 90s. So understand that.
Wow. Wow.
Huge gap in our knowledge, in our scientific knowledge, whether medical knowledge or scientific as a whole. And then your immune system is going to change. So if you're here thinking like, why am I like inflamed all the time? I
Mm.
got frozen shoulders. Do I have frozen thumb? Why do I have tendonitis? Like, oh, what's
Yeah.
going on? Well, because your immune system is adapting and changing, and things are changing in your body because the estrogen is starting to fluctuate, because you're having much lower levels of testosterone. The connective tissue doesn't get the same message to repair
Mm,
itself. That's a huge part of metabolism if you have to change how you move your body.
It explains a
So,
lot,
hormone.
so
Mhm.
much. It's like
Yeah.
yeah.
you're like
Yeah.
explaining my body and my early 40s, before I started
Yeah.
changing my nutrition and
Yes.
taking care of my body in this season of life. It's just so important that we learn how to do that, right, Heather?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
And
really
again,
putting
women are,
together whole body
yes.
healing too, right?
And
Mm.
women are not, men aren't either, by the way. They're receiving slightly better care for sure. That's the data is very clear on that.
Mm.
I could quote a whole bunch of statistics on that. I'm just gonna ask you to just trust your experience that you haven't felt heard at times, not by everybody, by every field, but
Yeah.
oftentimes it's a very common theme of women feel like I've been trying to get proper testing for my hormones. My PCP doesn't want to even do an A1C to check my blood sugars, right? Like there's all these issues. So metabolically also your blood sugars, if you're dysregulated, your metabolism has decided to do something with excess blood sugar. So that's when you gain weight. So, metabolically, if you're not intentionally moving your body, nourishing yourself in a way that supports your body, your
Mm.
metabolism, your cells, your DNA, your mitochondria will make decisions to compensate for what's going on. If
Mm.
your hormones are off, metabolically, genetically, mitochondrial wise, your body will make decisions to protect you
Yeah.
for with those things. And
That's so,
oftentimes there's going to be a down regulation of what we think of metabolism. But there's ways to like reignite metabolism. One, get proper hormone testing. Two, go check your nutrients. If your vitamin B is suboptimal, your vitamin D is deficient, just those two things, your metabolism is going to struggle. The mitochondria needs lots of nutrients, including B vitamins to
yeah.
function optimally
Yeah.
and a
We're all,
lot of minerals. So
yeah.
if you're nutritionally deficient, your metabolism is going to slow down on purpose. It
Yeah.
is not a disease state. And then
So
when you
good.
try to force that without proper nutrition, your body's going to downregulate that even more. It's like, girlfriend, I just slowed this down to help save your life. Now you're pushing harder without giving me what you need. It's
So,
not going to
yeah.
work. And that's where people tell me they come to me with Excel sheets and diagrams, and they're like,
Mm.
I have tracked everything and I'm still not losing weight. I'm like, yeah,
Wow.
because you're not nourishing yourself properly or you're still deficient.
That's why
So intentional
yeah.
movement. And
That's so
then
great. We need
if you're
these
not
programs.
on
We need the
yeah,
education so much because I think that we're not pairing in our minds, not pairing the fuel with how our bodies are responding. And so that
correct.
is, and within our program, 3F Wellness, that we are teaching how to track your macros, how to, what you need to fuel your body properly. And so, yes, getting the testing done and finding where you need your supplements, right? And that whole body healing. We're running a little bit out of time, so I just want to really quickly, your recommendation for whole body healing approach. What would yeah, like you said, the hormone testing, which you can find from yourself, and also from there are local places if you find a local integrative medicine like clinic in your area. But we love that Melanie is here with us today. How can you help the ladies and look at the whole healing, and then also what would you recommend?
For whole, so
Whole
there, I
body
feel
healing.
there's
Yeah, whole
two
body
questions.
healing. Yeah.
Yeah, when you think about whole body healing, there's really five things that how I approach my framework. Of course, there's the biological health. We've talked just a little bit about hormones right now, but there's gut health, there's your immune health, there's all these other areas of the biological health that's really important. There's also mental and emotional, which your program is really good at supporting, as Heather mentioned earlier. And there's a social aspect of things too. Are you socially connected? Are you supported? Do you have the support that you feel you need? And are you having fun? That's also part of both mental but social health. I
Mhm.
often give prescriptions, especially to women. You have a prescription for a day off, a full day off. It's
I
not when
love
you run
that.
errands, it's when you go feed your spirit.
I,
What brings you joy and what ignites your spirit, you go do that.
I love that.
And then the dieted lifestyle piece, that's your whole program.